Okay, so now that we've kind of researched our book, we need to get to writing. All right, and so what we're going to try to do is accomplish this, get the book written in 4 hours or less. Okay, so let's first cover some tips to really speed this process along. And in fact, this is more kind of just the general technique. There's several different things that you can do that will greatly increase the decrease, the time it takes to write these books. All right, and you kind of want to go into this, kind of like doing things in bulk. You're gonna do something a little more at first, but by the time you're done with it, you're actually gaining time. You're saving time from doing something. And one of the tips for that, for example, is creating a research database. So instead of having to go in and research and find everything for every single book, put everything that you have, all of the content that you have, all the tips, tricks, techniques, what customers think about the various tips and tricks, so from their reviews, as well as the product location, information locations, YouTube videos, articles, blogs, books, other books. Create a research database so that it's all in one point. And if you have it, for example, highly organized by type of information, so tips about eating healthy, tips about fruits, tips about vegetables, whatever it is. So you have it categorized that way. So whenever you create a new book, you can just go in and you can take a look at your research database that you've already compiled from the previous book, and you can say, okay, what do I want to pull out of this to create my new book? And then, well, what am I missing? Okay, I'm missing some stuff here and here, so I'll go in and I'll go add more to the research database. So I'll go look, I'll find that information really fast, add a little more to the research database. And then for every new book that you add, you start, you already have a base of information that you can begin with. So if you are releasing your third diet book, maybe additional tips on dieting or something, you could start with what you already have and find a way to rework it and then add more stuff to it. So that maybe you've done 3 books of tips about dieting, but now you begin doing weight loss in general, or maybe exercising. Well, you can then start off with your diet and how you can use a diet to increase your energy while exercising. And you already have that information already there. See what I'm saying? So you start by, every time you release a book, you add more information to the research database. It just makes it easier and faster for you to create future books that way. All right. Obviously, the next tip, these books are anywhere between 99 cents, $2.99, $4.99. They're not really that expensive, so you don't need to worry about them being these monstrosity 500-page books. So you're not writing the next Lord of the Rings. You're writing a 50-page or less, 30 to 50-page how-to book. Or if a fiction book, maybe just a 30 to 50-page novella that's going to be, or a series book that's going to be released in a series. Keep your book short. I'm going to tell you this right now. A lot of these people, they just like to consume information quickly. All right. When it comes to how-to products, you'll notice that a lot of these self-help books, a lot of these diet plan books, a lot of these are all just 20, 30, 40, 50 pages. Because most of these people, they're just paying 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99. They're not paying a lot of money for it. They're just wanting a quick fix on getting their information, and they want to be a little bit entertained at the same time. So if you can make your book humorous and entertaining at the same time as making it informative and punchy and to the point, all compacted into 50 pages or less, they're going to love you for it, and they're going to want to consume more information from you. All right, this is just a general lesson that I have learned, not even through a Kindle, but also just through people in general. It doesn't matter whether it's a WSO, whether it's a Kindle book, whether it's a book or magazine being sold at a physical location. These people want to consume this information and consume it quickly. All right. Utilize a mind map outline to outline the whole book. We're going to go over that technique in a minute. Fill content with compilation material. Guys, you can probably put a third of your book just be nothing but compilation material. What I mean is, for example, best applications, best apps for X, for iPad, iPod, or for outsourcing, or best apps for productivity, or for romance, or for whatever it is that you're talking about. The best software applications that you can use on your phone, on your computer, that sort of stuff. Best videos about this, best articles about this, more information about this topic. Compilation material, All right, where they can go to find out more information, or where they can go to get more help, or get some software to help them with it. All right, you can easily fill up, if you have 30 pages, you could easily put 10 pages worth of some compilation stuff. So maybe 2 or 3 pages of the best apps for their iPod or iPad or phone that has to do with working out and losing weight. And some more videos about the topic, and some additional articles about this topic. All right, so say you've got your main theory in the first few pages of the book, and then you've got your strategy, how to, maybe a case study or two, and then compilation material. All right. And then depending on the niche, you can also put another few pages of, for example, checklists to do. Here's your daily checklist. Here's your quick overview guide, maybe just a quick eagle's eye view of whatever it is you're teaching, or maybe a daily planner. In fact, you can turn a daily planner into a book all by itself. So, for example, some of the best, fastest selling, fastest to produce books, time versus money wise, is compilation books. People want to be told exactly what to do to get the results that they want, and they want to be guaranteed. So, for example, if they want to lose weight, create a specific diet plan, or find a specific diet plan that works for you, or, for example, a romance plan, or whatever plan it is. But here's what you do. You have your, weight loss guide. Say it's a weight loss guide. You have a disclaimer section, an introduction, and the theory behind why it works. Then day 1, you have your quick intro, the meal plan they need to follow, and the to-do list for their exercises. Day 2, the second meal plan, the second to-do list. Day 3, and then maybe just 7 days of this or 14 days of this. So, for example, you've got maybe 2 or 3 pages for the introduction and the theory, a page for the disclaimer, and then, 14 to 20 pages for the days. And by the time you're done, you've got 30 pages, and it's just a daily guide for them to sit and consume the info and read it over, and they're being told exactly what to do, and they'll consume it and use it, and if that works for them, they'll come and leave you a positive review. All right, you can do that technique right there is extremely powerful, can be used. You can quickly put together a book that way, easily within 4 hours, if if you have the information researched and available for you. All right, so let's talk about the mind mapping thing. So I'm going to create a new mind map here. I'm going to show you my mind mapping technique for creating books or any information video product, including even this one. This is exactly what I did, and I can have this done in just a few minutes if I have the research material open or if I know it in my head. All right, so this one's going to be about outsourcing. So we're going to call this Outsourcing Simplified. All right, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to just start creating a few bullet points that I want to make sure we want to teach. So, all right, we need an introduction, and I'm not sure what I'll put in that yet, but we're just going to go ahead and leave that as is. All right, so what do we need to talk about outsourcing that would make it really simple and easy to understand for everyday people who want to outsource parts of their life? Let's see. So maybe some general theory they need to know first. So how about we call it general need to know. All right? Some basic concepts. All right, and then finally, how to hire. So we'll cover the 3 basic things. So how to hire, which includes how to find the people, how to manage, how to hire, how to manage, how to grow. We'll just say this. All right, so I've got the 5 basic sections for my book. All right, I'm planning on, say, 30 to 50 pages. So the introduction, we'd have a 2-page introduction, maybe a welcome, talking about the pitfalls, or how about talking about the problems with, running a business or whatever it is we're outsourcing for. Maybe wouldn't even necessarily be targeted for other people who just want to have a better life, and they can outsource things from their life. Who knows? But we'll just say problems with running a business, solutions of outsourcing, and then the pitfalls. All right? So the general needs to know. They need to know a few things about creating systems. They need to know a few things about, let's see, besides creating systems, maybe they need to know a few things about labor. All right, labor, division of labor. All right. Software automation versus human automation. Okay, so these would be a couple of things I would want to talk about. Then finally, how to hire. And the types of labor. So you'd have, and I go ahead and do these types. So you have gig job based. So these would be like Fiverr gigs or one-time job-based gigs, or jobs, for example, go set up a website this one time or whatever. Then you have the hourly, as needed, part-time, full-time, salaried, freelancer, versus dedicated. Okay, so, freelancer would be like someone on Odesk. Dedicated would be like an in-house employee. The types of pay and jobs based upon that. All right. Then we move on to how to hire. So, for example, utilizing Odesk, Elance, whatever. Good job descriptions, pay according to skill, probably include a little picture of the pay triangle, interviewing, how about actually application requirements and interviewing. I'm literally, guys, just making the book right now, in case you hadn't noticed. Okay, I'm just literally going through this and just making the book. Application interviewing, test hiring, and I'm not sure yet. But anyway, test hiring is kind of what we would leave it on. Then we move on to the management section. How to train. We talk about discipline and rewards. System, let's see, employee-based system creation. When to let go. So when to fire the person if necessary, all right? So I'd probably talk about some more stuff in there. All right, so how to grow. So we talk about return on investment. Time versus labor, that sort of stuff. How to grow, systems for scaling. We'd maybe move back to software implementation, like how to implement software into their growth plan. Planning and milestones. That would almost need to be talked about first. All right, so stuff like that. All right, and then what I would just go back through is kind of already done here. I would go in and fill in this out some more. So, good job descriptions. So let's say, for instance, one complete. So, for example, the 5 sections. What we are looking for, to what we need, what we're looking for, what skills you need, the job, kind of the job requirements, the job information, like, for example, what it pays. Let's see, what it pays, the hours, expectations for the job, the actual application itself. So, for example, they have to answer questions they fail, they get rejected. All right, so for example, and then show example, right? So that's one way we can put an extra page in there, pay according to skill. So show the skill tree and talk more about division, labor, what to pay. Requirements in interviewing, talk about interviewing and test hiring, and I'd fill out this. So, I mean, you kind of get the point. I'm just literally going through here, and I'm filling this in, and it would only take me about probably half an hour to fill this in, and then after that, I would just get to writing. If I'm pushing the 3-4 hour mark into my writing, I'm going, you know what, this is getting too long. I would come back in here and start pruning stuff, and what I would do to prune is I would literally just take and drag this out to another thing and see, and you know, maybe even say that this has been pruned. And what I would do is later on, this could be added as for an additional update later on. I'm going to talk about updating strategies here in a little bit, but in another video. But so this is kind of how I would go about doing this. All right. Before we move on, I want to talk about one little rewriting trick that I utilized to further increase, and in fact I used it to actually write 90 unique articles in just a few days, and I did that years ago. But it's called human spinning, all right? And it's the same concept as spinning, you know, with automation, except that you do it the same way, except you use your mind to do it, and you can come up with creative articles that say the same exact thing, but they say it completely differently, if that makes any sense. So they say the same thing, but the words are completely different. Basically, if you were to utilize a piece of software to analyze it, its context would be 100%, meaning contextually it's the same thing. It's the same exact topic, teaching the same exact thing, contextually. But as far as uniqueness, it would also be 100% unique, meaning it would be completely different. The words would be completely different, wrote in a different way than, say, you know, than the other articles. So how you do this is actually really simple. You just figure out how you can compile and uncompile various information. And what I mean by this is, say you have this, 10 tips to losing weight. All right, now how can we compile that information differently? So you've got these 10 tips, right? So here's what I would do to turn this around and say 10 tips to lose weight, step-by-step guide to losing weight. So for example, I would turn these tips into a step-by-step section. So okay, here's how you do tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, tip 4, and maybe compile some of the tips together. So tip 1, 2, and 3 are all related, so instead let's turn this into step 1. All right. So we could say a 5-step guide. So how about that? 5-step guide to losing weight. And then that same information we could say 10 problems, 10 tips to overcome weight loss problems. Okay, so these 10 are the actual same 10 different tips. The only thing is that we've reordered them, as I said, compiled them differently, and we've angled them differently. So they say the exact same thing, but in this angle, we're talking about how they overcome a specific problem. This one is only the 10 tips to losing weight. This one talks about, well, this problem you're going to have, but this tip will overcome this problem. So this one looks at it as a problem solution. This one looks at it as a general kind of article or category. All right, so you can actually use this, and I use this in you can do it all kinds of different ways. You can literally just take the article and recompile it and rewrite it, but you can, by getting different angles on these things, for example, by overcoming weight loss problems, that's a different angle. You can totally write the same article in a completely different way that will read as a completely different article, but relay the same information as this one and this one. All right, so that's the human spinning trick, and this is really good, especially after you've wrote your first book, and you want to include some of that information in your second book, but you can't just be a copy-paste job. All right, find a way to create a different angle on it, and by doing that, you'll cut down your writing time tremendously. And you can also utilize this to cut down your writing time on the first book by maybe taking these tips and simply restating them, or you can use it to create. For example, you can use these. For example, 10 tips to losing weight and how they overcome weight loss problems. So the first section you give the tip. The second section is giving the tips again, literally giving the tips again, but you're saying it, here's the problems that they solve. So you're literally saying the same thing twice in a book, but from the angle of the reader, they're reading it as the problems they're overcoming and kind of why it works. So for them, they're getting the book, which normally would be 15 pages, they're getting 30 or 40 pages, but to them, you're providing them with two sets of information. Even though it's the same information, you're providing them with the 10 tips and the why those 10 tips works. All right, and that will dramatically cut down on your writing time. Trust me, it will. When you combine that with your mind mapping trick, you can quickly get this stuff kind of out. Especially if you have your research database open, you can get this done. And finally, this is a little productivity tip. Set a hard time goal. I'm going to do 1 hour for research, and then have a kitchen clock. You can also use the Action Machine, theactionmachine.com. All right, it's an awesome piece of software. And then you can literally say, okay, I'm going to have 1 hour to research. And then you set the clock. You see the clock is ticking. You do the research. And when that hour's up, it's done. You're not going to do any more. All right, and then you're going to set, I'm going to write this book in 4 hours, and I'm going to do it in an hour segment each. So 1 hour, then I'm going to take a 15-minute break. Then another hour, then another 15-minute break. Or maybe a 30-minute break because you've worked for 2 hours. And then I'm going to work another hour, 15 minutes, and then another hour and be done. All right, so that's how you can get this done. So literally it would take you maybe 5 hours to get the book written. You only write for 4 hours, but because you used kitchen timers or whatever, you can then set yourself a hard goal. And then you'll notice as you get more experience creating content, you'll know what it takes to get 4 hours worth of content. You'll also know that if you've got too much content. At first, you might get 2 hours in and be like, man, you know what? I'm not even a third of the way done. I really need to cut some of this stuff out. So what you start doing is you start cutting stuff out. You start pruning. Finally, a little quick tip that you can always do is you can create audio recordings of what you're doing, and you can get them off to a transcriptionist to have them transcribed. And there's tons of places on Fiverr, Otis that you can have it done for quite affordably. So, you can always speak it into existence and then have it transcribed for cheap and then sent off to an editor for some cleanup. That's kind of a mixed creation. Instead of having it completely outsourced, you can do mixed creation where you record it via audio and then, you have it done yourself in 4 hours, but it then gets transcribed and sent to an editor, and then instead of paying $400 or $500 for a book created, you only spend $50 to have it transcribed and edited. All right, so those are the tips to get it 4-hour writing. Now, what we're going to talk about in the next video is creating the exposure around your book, and the rest of this course is going to talk about getting the contents selling. Okay, so we want to get our book selling. So I'll see you guys in the next video.